So something I wanted to talk about today, we'll see where this goes, but kind of on the topics of things that are, what's part of this health and awakening journey, right? So my latest video, I talk about the crossover between chronic health and awakening and how it's the same process. And, you know, we often don't realize how much the physical health component is a part of the awakening process. But it's nuanced, right? It's really nuanced. And that's why I try to find different ways to talk about this. And I'm really interested in exploring the crossover more and more, because for me, things are very clear right now, but I can totally understand the challenges, right? Because it's been a wild process for me figuring out all the things of my path that had to kind of be realized, you know. And one thing that I see coming up in the comments is questions around, there's two things that I actually want to address here. One is questions around spiritual bypassing, which is a great point, right? And it's a very important thing to talk about. Is like the comment, like, is it spiritual bypassing to go and seek, you know, medical help? And, or is it the other way around? Is not seeking medical help spiritual bypassing? So here's the thing, right? There's no perfect answer. The perfect answer is that you have to try everything. You have to experiment. There's no kind of set formula, right? There's no one way that things work out. Some people get help from, you know, traditional Western medicine. And that's where I started, right? I started with Western medicine. And then once that was so clear that there was nothing in me for it, right? None of the stuff that I was dealing with was being addressed there. But I still got value out of it, right? I met, you know, you meet doctors that aren't helpful, and you meet doctors that are kind and compassionate, but they still maybe can't help you. But it's all playing out how it needs to, right? You just need to, like, see, where are you afraid to try, right? Where are you afraid to look? And I understand it's challenging, it's confusing. So that, you know, that's why I'm trying to just share my perspective, and maybe it's helpful, maybe it's not. You know, maybe you just don't take anything away from this video, and that's okay. I understand that. Don't have fucking all the answers. I have no answers, to be honest. But anyways, that's beside the point. The point is that you have to try everything, right? So, but you have to be willing to move on to the next thing, and that is challenging, right? Because it's the unknown, right? Our minds are terrified of the unknown. Absolutely terrified. Like, it just becomes more and more clear to me how we will do insane things because we're afraid of letting go into the unknown, because we're afraid of letting go into no control, into beyond concepts, right? Beyond all knowing. That's where you find the answers, but you don't find conceptual answers. You find intuitive resonance, is one way to put it. You find, yes, this is right. But for me, that came through countless roads where I was just like, I cannot do this anymore. I just want to blink out of existence. But I could also see that was resistance arising in me, right? So it was one part of me felt like that, and then the other part of me felt like, well, there's nothing I can do but see this for what it is. And then the more willing we are to let go, the more willing we are to feel deeply and not know. That's the thing that comes up, right? I see it in the comments, and I'm not judging you, but it's just, maybe this is a helpful pointer, that the comments often understand what I'm saying, but there's still a fear of not knowing and really just trusting your own experience, right? That's a key thing I want to point out, is that when there's a comment asked, like, getting this, but then, you know, how does this apply to this aspect of the path, right? How does this apply to, one example I saw was like menopause, or how does this apply to this other health problem or this other thing? And it's like, everything is here to show you something. Absolutely Everything is here to show you something. And if there's something that, feels like, but this is, something outside of this space, outside of this awakening journey, outside of this letting go journey, this is my problem. That's where you need to investigate, right? That's where you need to let go. Maybe that's where you need to do some work, right? That's going back to the spiritual bypassing, right? Is it spiritual bypassing to, seek improvement in a certain area of relative life, or is it spiritual bypassing to not seek? And both can be true, right? It comes down to, what are you afraid of? Are you afraid of the unknown, right? Are you feeling stuck, but you will rather complain about your situation, about your problems, than actually do something? And doing something, I can't tell you exactly what that is. I can't. It might be, maybe doing something is learning to sit and meditate if you don't do that. But on the other hand, if you do sit and meditate, maybe, doing something is going to see somebody that you're afraid of. It's the unknown, right? What are you afraid to do? And your intuition will know this, right? You can sit with this, you can ask a question, and it will come up inside you. Where are you afraid? And then it's also a gentle approach, right? There's times where I was like, okay, wow, I can see I'm afraid to let go into the relative more, right? So I'd had awakening, I'd had shifts, and my mind was becoming comfortable being isolated from the world. It was like, hey, I'm actually comfortable. I've sorted out my health problems, and I'm comfortable being nobody. But I was afraid of being somebody, if that makes sense. I was actually afraid of putting myself out there. I was afraid of, as Matt Garrett would put it, stepping into my own light. And I was addicted to staying small, if that makes sense. I was afraid to express, right? But for somebody else, maybe they're very comfortable in that space, and that's great, that's good. It's beautiful to see people express themselves. But maybe if something's feeling wrong, stuck, not right, then maybe you need to spend some more time feeling into stuff. I don't know, right? I don't know what it is for you, but you do. A part of you knows. That's intuition, right? This whole process is about coming back into your own kind of deeper knowing that is not conceptual. It's not a knowing of the mind, but it can come up into conceptual expression, if that makes sense, right? It's like once we're touching into the space of intuition, then we can use concepts, right? We can express in the world. I can make YouTube videos. I can, decide to create things, but I'm not. If the mind ever is getting bound up in, I don't know what to do, I don't know what's next, there's no need to then go and turn it into a whole big problem. Then it's surrender, then it's trust, then it's letting go. Then it's like, I don't know what my next step is. I don't. And I'll just sit and feel. And then something opens up. And if something doesn't open up, then maybe I need to sit and feel more. And then maybe I need to explore, okay, shit, I was holding back here. I was afraid to have a vulnerable conversation with somebody. That's actually been very transformative for me many a times. If I'm feeling resistance towards maybe a family member or a close relationship, having a very vulnerable conversation where I express my feelings is terrifying for the mind. The mind would rather sit and complain about the situation, right? The mind would rather be like, hey, I don't like how things are, and this person and me, we don't see eye to eye, and blah, 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 blah. But again, I can't say how this plays out for you, but I can share examples for myself. Like often then I would just go and sit with the emotion, right? I would be like, okay, this person is making me feel a certain emotion. I just need to sit and feel that. And that was helpful, right? Because it removed the emotional charge. But the deeper letting go happened through a very vulnerable conversation, and then things actually grew a lot closer with these relationships. So that's just another example, right? I can't say exactly what you're bypassing, but you can figure it out with inquiry and trusting, going in deep and letting go, right? Being honest with yourself. I'm distracting, I'm a void. What am I afraid of? What don't I want to feel? And there's space for everything as well, right? There's space for distraction, there's space for avoidance. Like those things often need to play out to be seen as unsatisfying. I've had many a times where I let myself distract just to see on the other side that, and it's here we come back to the deeper aspect, the paradoxical nature of awakening. It is playing out on its own entirely exactly how it needs to. But again, we can fixate in that. So, it's a balance of talking like that and talking in the relative as the person with volition and free will and choice. It's both. It's paradoxical. You got to love a paradox if it comes to awakening. You'll get nowhere if you don't accept that it's all paradoxical. So it is happening exactly how it needs to. The distraction is distracting. The resistance is resisting. The person is personing. The fear is fearing. The peace is piecing. Honestly, right in your mind's like, what the fuck is this? And again, it will just unfold the more you let it do it. But sometimes that unfolding feels like very effort-based, pushing yourself into the sensations, right? Sometimes if things are feeling not right, then I will really just push myself deep into the sensations, maybe through movement, maybe through breathing exercises, maybe through cold water, maybe through meditation. And then sometimes things are just flow. And both of those things are happening on their own, actually. Like sometimes it's clear that there's everything happening on its own, and sometimes it very much feels like there's somebody that's in charge, and they're both happening on their own, but they're both relevant, right? They're both true in and of their own right. So that's what I want to say on spiritual bypassing, and also just being aware of when your mind wants to create a problem, right? What's the problem in your reality right now? Reality is perfection disguised as a problem. Because when you investigate the problem, and you have to, right? That's how you see the perfection, is when you inquire into your mind's problem and then you see what is there. But that doesn't mean that something's gone wrong if there's lots of problems arising, because we have to process this all. We have to see this all. We have to integrate this all. But it becomes clearer and clearer that there is no problem. And then those mind roads get cut off way faster. That every time the mind's saying, oh, there's a problem, then it's like, wait, I know there isn't. But why does it feel like there is? That's where the juice is. Why does it feel like there's a problem if I know there isn't? Because I'm afraid of feeling something, right? There's nothing to not feel, but resistance might make it seem like there is. So it's paradoxical, right? This whole video is paradoxical. I'm speaking a load of gibberish, but it's helpful because, language is contradictory, but at the same time, we can resonate, we can get things across. But we also have to realize the limits of language, right? If I see this as well in my videos sometimes, someone will make a comment, trying to pick apart my points intellectually. And if you want to do that, you can quite easily, because I'm not trying to create one logical, debatable argument. I'm trying to point to the paradoxical nature of this entire process. So if you don't accept paradox, then sure, you can come entirely like that's pointless though. I don't really care if you pull apart the points I'm making. You're doing it to yourself, right? You're finding what you're doing is you're finding a way to resist what I'm saying because it's triggering you. So that's just another point, right? I've seen this many times before, where someone from a very debating place wants to say like, look, you don't make any sense. And it's entirely on purpose, right? Because this is about going beyond that, only that way of seeing. So yeah, just kind of see that in yourself, maybe. And it's okay if it's confusing. It's okay if it makes no sense. It's okay if you don't like the process. Like, it's all meant to be. It's all perfection, but it has to just play out. So yeah, I don't know if that's helpful, but that's what I want to say. All right. Adios.